You ever watch a sci-fi show and see something so cool, you just have to wonder, could that actually happen? Well, today, we're grabbing one of the absolute coolest ideas, walking through walls. And we're going to connect it to a real-life quantum trick that, get this, actually powers our entire sun. Let's dive in and see how close sci-fi and science really are. I mean, it's the ultimate superpower, right? Just phasing right through a solid barrier like it's nothing. In shows like Stargate, it looks so simple. But is there any shred of real science behind it? The answer is, well, it's complicated, and it all kicks off with a great sci-fi classic. So, in the Stargate universe, you've got this civilization called the Tollan. These guys are hyper-advanced with all kinds of amazing tech. But one of their most memorable gadgets was a device that could make you intangible, letting you walk straight through solid objects. Now, to get the device, you first have to get the people who made it. Okay, so the Tollan, they weren't just brilliant, they were super cautious. And for good reason. They had seen firsthand how their amazing technology could go horribly wrong. See, they once gave a neighboring world a new energy source, which that world immediately weaponized and, well, blew themselves up. After that, the Tollan made their #1 law: never, ever share technology. This whole backstory is key because it shows their phase device isn't just magic. It's the product of a very smart and very wary society. And this is where we make the leap. We're jumping from the world of science fiction straight into a truly mind-bending scientific fact. Because the idea of passing through a barrier you shouldn't be able to cross, it isn't just a fantasy. Down in the bizarre world of quantum mechanics, something very, very similar happens all the time. It's called quantum tunneling. This right here is the perfect way to wrap your head around it. Imagine you have a ball and a big hill. In our everyday world, the rules are simple. You need enough energy to push that ball all the way up and over the top. The hill is a solid barrier. But for a tiny subatomic particle, the rules are completely different. It has a small but real chance of just appearing on the other side. Like it tunneled straight through. It doesn't break the hill, it's like it found a cheat code. So here it is, the official textbook definition. Quantum tunneling is what happens when a particle gets past an energy barrier that, according to the normal rules of physics, it just shouldn't have enough energy to overcome. And as strange as it sounds, this is not some new, wild theory. Believe it or not, this idea has been around for nearly a century. It was first dreamed up back in the 1920s, and then in 1928, a physicist named George Gamow used it to explain a real-world mystery: radioactive decay. That was huge. But the theory's most important job was yet to come. And it was happening inside the heart of our very own sun. Because this isn't just some weird little quirk that particles do. No, this impossible trick is the very reason you and I are here right now. It's the secret sauce that powers the engine of our entire solar system. Just try to picture the sun's core. It's this insane, unbelievably hot and dense furnace. And what it's doing, essentially, is running a giant fusion reaction. It's taking hydrogen atoms, smashing them together so hard they fuse into helium, and that process releases all the light and heat we feel on Earth. But there's a huge problem with that. Think of it like this. You know how when you try to push the same ends of two strong magnets together, they push each other away? Well, hydrogen nuclei, protons, all have a positive charge. So they do the same thing, but way, way stronger. This force acts like an invisible, powerful wall. According to classical physics, the protons in the sun just don't have enough energy to break through that wall. So how does the sun even work? They don't smash through the barrier. They tunnel. Thanks to this quantum loophole, a proton has a tiny, but very real, chance of just popping into existence right next to another one. Close enough for a much stronger force to take over and snap them together. And that is fusion. Just let that sink in for a second. Without this bizarre quantum cheat, nuclear fusion inside the sun would be impossible. The sun wouldn't shine, it wouldn't generate heat, and Earth would just be a frozen, lifeless rock floating in space. Everything we know, our entire existence, depends on tiny particles doing something that should be totally impossible. So this thing powers the stars, which is pretty epic. But what's even cooler is that we've actually figured out how to harness quantum tunneling right here on Earth. We've put this impossible trick to work inside some of our most cutting-edge technology. For instance, scanning tunneling microscopes. They have a needle so incredibly sharp that its tip is just a single atom. As it moves over a surface, electrons literally tunnel across the tiny gap between the tip and the surface. We can measure that flow of electrons to create an image, atom by atom. The same idea is used in things like tunnel diodes, which are key components in all sorts of high-frequency electronics. Okay, so let's take a breath. We went from a sci-fi gadget to the fiery heart of the sun, and all the way back to technology we can hold in our hands. Now it's time to put it all together and see exactly where the fantasy of Stargate has to part ways with the facts of quantum physics. Yeah, this chart really lays it out. The Tollans device works on big stuff, like people, and you can turn it on and off. Quantum tunneling, that only works for tiny, subatomic particles, and you can't control it. It's all based on probability. The effect is kind of the same, passing through a barrier, but the scale and the application are just worlds apart. And here it is, the million-dollar question. Why can't you do it? Well, for you to tunnel through a wall, every single one of the trillions upon trillions of particles that make up your body would have to tunnel through the wall's particles at the exact same instant. The odds of that happening are so small, it's basically zero. You'd have to stand there trying for trillions of times longer than the universe has existed to even have a chance. So, for you and me, it's a no-go. So, while that awesome Tollan phase device is going to stay firmly in the realm of sci-fi, the principle that inspired it is a fundamental truth of how our universe is put together. It powers the stars, lets us see individual atoms, and it proves that reality is way, way weirder than it looks. It really makes you wonder, if the universe is already using this quantum trick to get past one impossible barrier, what other impossibilities are just waiting for us to figure out the rules?